So we row a lot in CrossFit because it is a great movement, single modality movement for metabolic conditioning, and anybody can do it, just about, and not as high impact as some of the other things we do is jump and rope or running specifically, where we can do, really get the heart rate going and get after it. So in rowing, what we are looking to do is generate as much power as we can in the rower, and that's going to change depending on how long we're rowing, but what we do as far as the movement and the points of performance is the same. If we're doing a 20 or 30 second sprint versus doing a 5,000 or a 5K row, we still are going to have basically the same movement standards of what we're trying to accomplish. In the row, it's basically 3 movements done in succession as you're doing the row. And then you're going to do them in reverse, coming back. So the first thing that we're going to do is extend the legs, then you're going to open your hips, and then you're going to finish and pull with your arms. Going back, it's exactly the opposite. I'm going to extend with my arms, I'm going to close my hips, and I'm going to bend my legs. So what that's going to look like in succession is arms, hips, wrong. It's going to look like legs, hips, arms, hips, legs. Over-exaggerating it a little bit, but what we see a lot of times is people doing that out of order. So pulling with the arms too early, opening the hips before I open with before I extend my legs. And what you're doing is you're just wasting energy and being less efficient. So what we want to see is, again, extend those legs, driving those heels into it, open the hips, and then finish that pull with the arms. Question that we get sometimes is, where do I finish this pull? Right, you'll see everybody from belly button all the way up. I've seen people pull over the head. This is probably not good. But anywhere in between here at the belly button, up in here is okay, especially if you're doing if you have another movement combined with rowing where you're using your legs a lot, and maybe you want to use your arms a little bit more. In the row, you can pull a little bit more with your arms up in here just to maybe save your legs. But in general, it's going to be right in this range because that is going to be straight. Anytime we're moving this thing up and down, again, we're just wasting movement there and not generating power into the rower, which is what we want to do. Something to think about, just a good thought process, this is basically doing repetitive deadlifts. So anything that you wouldn't do in a deadlift, you don't really want to do on the rower. So you would not deadlift like this, I would hope. You should not row that way. You want to, just like in a deadlift, you want to keep your back as flat as possible. One of the things we see in rowing a lot, especially when people are trying to go fast, is a lot of this bending of the back. And that done repetitively is just putting a ton of strain on your back that you don't want. Ideally, you would like it to stay right here. Maybe just this little tiny bend, you're going to get a little bit of that as you pull, but you'd like to, just like you do in a deadlift, keep that back nice and flat as you pull through this. Last thing I'll talk about before I want to point out a couple things on how to track your progress and what you're looking for while you're rowing is really finishing these pulls. A lot of times beginner rowers, what we see is they do really fast pulls, but they're just not finishing them all the way through. They're just kind of pulling through this way. And what's going to happen there is you're going to get really tired really fast, and you're not really going to get anywhere. You're going to notice everybody else getting off the rower or getting further along, and you're more tired than they are because it's less efficient to pull really fast than it is to do full pulls. You can even rest a little bit in between. That is going to be much more efficient than these half pulls really fast. So some things to think about in that range. For this video, and there's, we could do an hour-long video on rowing, but this is down here in the bottom left. This is the biggest of the displays, so I'm going to use that, but this is on every display. This is strokes per minute. You want to keep this It's different by person, but you certainly want to keep that under 30 strokes per minute. If you find this number going above 30, you're probably not pulling as hard as you could. You're probably less efficient. You're shortening it somewhere along the lines. And I'd just like to see you get that below 30 strokes per minute. I know what mine is, and you should know for you where you are the most efficient. Mine is in the low 20 strokes per minute is where I'm really efficient. I can maintain that for a long period of time. I can just pull harder if I'm trying to generate more power and maybe doing a sprint. I don't necessarily have to go higher on strokes per minute in order to go faster and generate more power. I can just pull harder, and that is more efficient. The other thing you should know is in these different time domains, what kind of pace you can keep and not come out of the gate just crazy fast and then die off at the end when we're just doing 500 meters. This is your pace per 500 meters. You'll see the same thing in calories per hour if we're doing it by calories, but that is the pace. That's the power that you're producing in your pace in doing that. You should have an idea what that is, and I would challenge you in these workouts to try to maintain that pace in the next few rowing workouts that you do. Don't have huge variations. Know what this pace is and shoot to keep this strokes per minute down and that pace consistent through your workout. Thanks.